Hey everyone, and welcome. If you're prepping for exams, you know some topics are just pure gold. Well, today, we're diving into one of those. India's massive game plan for its aviation maintenance, repair, and overhaul sector, or MRO for short. This is a huge story about economic potential and, becoming truly self-reliant.
And let me tell you, this isn't just some goal written down in a dusty policy paper. This is a top-level national priority. When the Prime Minister himself says this, it puts the MRO sector right in the spotlight. For you, that's a huge signal that this is a red-hot topic for your current affairs prep. Okay, so here's our flight plan for this explainer. First, we'll cover the basics. What exactly is MRO? Then we'll look at the incredible market potential right here in India. After that, we'll break down the different kinds of MRO services, get into the real challenges holding us back, and then look at the government's ambitious plan. And of course, we'll wrap it all up with the key takeaways you'll need for your exams.
So, first things first, what in the world are we even talking about when we say aviation MRO? Let's get right to the heart of what keeps our planes in the sky day in and day out.
In simple terms, MRO is basically everything, and I mean everything, that needs to be done to make sure an aircraft is safe to fly. The key industry term here is airworthy. Now, this isn't like taking your car to the local mechanic. Nope. It's an incredibly precise, highly regulated process that's required by law both by India's DGCA and international bodies. Bottom line, no MRO, no flying. It's that simple.
And why is this such a big deal for airlines? Well, look at this number. It's a massive, massive cost. Indian airlines spend anywhere from 12 to 15% of their entire revenue on MRO. Think about that. Right after paying for jet fuel, this is the single biggest bill they have to pay. It's huge.
All right, now that we know what it is, let's talk about the wow factor. We're looking at India's market potential. And honestly, it's like a sleeping giant that's finally starting to stir. The numbers are just staggering.
Just look at these numbers for a second. Right now, India has about 713 commercial planes. But here's the kicker. Indian airlines have already placed orders for over 1,000 new aircraft. Every single one of those new planes is going to need maintenance, repairs, and overhauls for its entire lifespan. That is a massive built-in demand just waiting to be met.
And this isn't just slow and steady growth we're talking about. It's projected to be explosive. This chart shows India's MRO market growing at almost 9% a year for the next decade. Compare that to the global average of about 5.6%. We're not just growing, we're on track to blow past the rest of the world.
So, what does that look like in cold, hard cash? We're talking about a market that's set to more than double in size, from about $1.7 billion today to a whopping $4 billion by 2031. This is the massive prize that everyone has their eyes on.
Okay, the market's huge, we get it. But what are we actually talking about? What happens inside those giant hangars? Let's pop the hood and really dissect what these MRO services actually are.
It really breaks down into four main areas. And for your exams, here's a super simple way to remember them. Just think of the word LACE. L is for line maintenance, the quick daily checks a plane gets right at the airport gate. A is for airframe maintenance, the much heavier structural checks inside a hangar. C is for component, that's repairing all the individual bits and pieces like landing gear. And E is for engine maintenance, the most complex and expensive part of the whole puzzle.
Now here's the thing you absolutely have to remember. Not all MRO is created equal. Look at this chart. That massive blue slice, that's engine MRO. It accounts for nearly 60% of all the money spent. This is the big one. It's the most expensive, most technology-heavy part of the job, and it's a huge reason why so much of this work ends up going abroad.
This just gives you a snapshot of how things scale up. You start with the frequent A checks, then you have bigger C checks every couple of years, but then you get to the D check. This happens maybe once a decade, and they practically take the entire plane apart and put it back together again. And just look at that price tag. We're talking over $1 million. This is a core part of the business model and perfect info for your notes.
So, the picture so far looks pretty amazing, right? Massive potential, huge growth, but, and it's a big but, there are some serious storm clouds on the horizon. Let's talk about the key challenges facing India. And this right here is the billion-dollar question. If the opportunity is so massive, why on earth are we shipping almost all of this work, nearly 90% of it overseas? The answer lies in some really critical challenges we just have to tackle. To help you keep it all straight, here's another great mnemonic for you. OILT. O stands for OEM monopoly. We'll get to that. I is for infrastructure gaps.
L is for licensing and certification issues, and T is for taxation. These four are the main headwinds we're flying into.
All right, let's unpack that O for OEM monopoly. OEM is just a fancy term for the companies that made the plane or the engine in the first place. You know, your Boeings, your Airbuses, your Rolls-Royces. They control everything: the patents, the repair manuals, the supply of spare parts. This gives them a massive amount of power and makes it incredibly expensive and difficult for independent Indian companies to compete, especially on that high-value engine work.
Okay, next up, L for licensing. And folks, this one is a real roadblock. See, Indian MRO shops are certified by our own DGCA, but most of the planes flying for Indian Airlines are actually leased, and those leases require certification from European or American authorities, the EASA or the FAA. Because our DGCA certification isn't automatically accepted everywhere, it basically forces our airlines to go shopping for MRO services abroad.
Okay, so we've seen the problems. But don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom. There is a plan, a flight plan, if you will, to navigate these headwinds and get India to its destination as a global MRO hub. So the government's top strategy group, Niti Aayog, has basically drawn up the blueprint. Here's the plan. First, create one single agency to coordinate everything. Second, be smart about it. Focus first on areas where those big OEMs have less control, like structural repairs. Third, offer financial incentives to attract investment. Fourth, go out and fight for global recognition of our DGCA standards. And fifth, sort out all the complicated tax and customs issues on spare parts. Whew, okay, we have covered a ton of ground. So now, for what might be the most important part for your exam prep, let's boil it all down into one simple revision snapshot. Ready?
All right, lock this in. Here's what you absolutely need to know. The goal? Become a major MRO hub by 2030. The market size? Going to hit $4 billion by 2031, growing at a crazy 8.9%. What's driving it? Massive fleet growth. Remember the four segments using LACE, and don't forget that engine MRO is the big one, at 60% of the cost. The key challenges? Remember OILT, especially the OEM monopoly and licensing issues. And the solutions? Think nodal agency focusing on low IP areas and getting that DGCA recognition. So that brings us to the final big picture question. The challenges are real, no doubt about it. But the roadmap is there and the ambition is clear. Can India actually pull this off? Can we pivot from being a 90% importer to a truly self-reliant global leader in this space? The blueprint is there. Now it's all about execution, something for all of us to watch very, very closely. Thanks for joining me.